The spiritual consciousness of animals was once revered. Ancient cultures often viewed animals as powerful, spiritual beings, a kind of messenger between the people and the gods. In the ancient world, humans fused with animals in all the major religions as a way to get beyond human limitations. Every culture, strangely enough, used the same animals to represent the same powers. In the modern world, most of the religions have abandoned the concept of man-animal divinities. Our gods now are purely anthropomorphic. For centuries, Western religion taught that only humans were created in the image of God, unique, special, and set apart from the rest of nature. Then came René Descartes, the father of modern Western philosophy. He took this belief and gave it a scientific twist. Descartes claimed that only humans possess a soul, and even pinpointed where it lived, the pineal gland, deep within the brain. To him, everything else, animals, nature, even the cosmos, was nothing more than a machine, a mechanical universe. His was an era marked by both a scientific and mechanical revolution, leading to rapid progress in mechanical engineering and a growing fascination with automata. Scientists began comparing everything, even the cosmos, to machines, predictable, mechanical, and ruled by simple laws of physics. Descartes drew a clear line between soul and body, mind and matter, consciousness, and the physical world. But in the coming centuries, as science dug deeper into the nature of reality, things started to get weird. When physicists looked closer, down to atoms, particles, and even waves, the physical world started to break down. Classical physics couldn't explain what they were seeing. At the smallest scales, particles didn't behave like solid objects. They interacted with the observer. Their behavior actually changed depending on whether or not they were being watched. This wasn't just science fiction, it was quantum physics, and it forced some of the world's greatest minds to rethink everything. Einstein himself once said, "The more I learn of physics, the more I am drawn to metaphysics." The ancients knew something that we seem to have forgotten. All means prove but a blunt instrument if they have not behind them a living spirit. The world's leading physicists were paving the way to a new paradigm, heralding the end of Descartes' mechanistic universe, uniting mind with matter, an ancient spiritual belief with modern science. Nikola Tesla, the father of modern electricity, also spoke of a non-physical field of intelligence, writing, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Since then, contemporary physicists have been implementing that progress. In 2022, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded for experiments that proved the profoundly strange quantum nature of reality and provided experimental confirmation that physical objects have no real values of their properties, like position and momentum when they're not observed. The fundamental building blocks of visible matter in the universe, the tiniest constituents of matter, quarks and electrons, are not made of anything. They have no size or spatial extent. They are not solid particles, but excitations of a field, and they have the ability to exist in a superposition of various potential locations or states. They can be described as a wave function, which spreads out in space and time. This wave function represents the probability of finding the electron at different places. The interaction between the electron and observer causes the electron to choose one specific observable state, known as wave function collapse. A wave of probability is collapsed into a specific particle. When electrons are observed, they behave like particles. However, when the electrons are not observed, they create a wave-like pattern. Although the physical world we experience appears to be made of particles of matter, physicist Federico Fagin explains, particles are not objects. Particles are states of a field. They rely on conscious observation to become particles in time and space. How can these immaterial particles be building blocks of what appear to be solid objects with mass? Quarks and electrons get properties like mass through interactions with fields that permeate space. Interaction with a field causes inertia and gives these particles what we perceive as mass. Without this field, these elementary particles, electrons and quarks, would be massless and would travel at the speed of light. They could not be organized into atoms, molecules, and the universe as we know it would not exist. What we perceive as the physical world is created by immaterial fields. Physicist James Glatfelter proposes that consciousness is the field itself, manifesting in the physical. Conventional quantum physics has identified and named these fields that permeate the universe and give elementary particles their properties, but describing them as purely physical entities may be at the crux of our confusion about the bizarre nature of quantum physics, where two widely separated particles appear to share information despite having no conceivable way of communicating. Physicists, theoretical scientists, and philosophers are positing a new fundamental theory that explains quantum mechanics and solves the problem of the inseparability of mind and matter, in which the mysterious fields connecting things are consciousness itself. The new theory suggests that just as our conscious interaction gives these particles their properties, so does the conscious interaction of these fields. Physicist Federico Fagin explains, consciousness and free will are foundational. It cannot be explained with anything simpler. If you start with that, you can explain why quantum physics must be the way it is. Collapse of the wave functions are free will decisions of the field, the various fields. They're interacting and creating this thing. Physicists are demonstrating that the realm preceding our physical universe, characterized by space-time, which includes the three spatial dimensions and the fourth dimension of time, is consciousness. Cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman posits that consciousness is the foundational dimension, saying, "Our best science and scientific theories are telling us that space-time is not fundamental. Space-time falls apart at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters and 10 to the minus 43 seconds and is not operational. The smaller things get that you're trying to measure, the more energy they assume, so the smaller you get, the more energy, density of mass and gravity. So much mass in a small region of space creates a black hole. You destroy the thing you're trying to measure. We never find that stuff called matter, Philosopher Rupert Spira states, "No one has ever found matter. We experience what appears as matter through perceiving and conceiving faculties, sight, sound, texture, smell. The world appears as our senses. Our senses create what appears as matter." Philosopher and computer scientist Bernardo Kastrup explains, "Matter is the way reality appears to the finite mind." Philosopher Rupert Spira describes the physical universe as how reality appears from the perspective of the senses and brain. Perception and thought render reality as space and time. Perception projects space as three-dimensional. Thought renders reality as time, four-dimensional. It's real, but its reality is not time and space. Space-time, what we perceive as space-time, is a projection of consciousness. Hoffman explains, "If you go back through all data structures to the ultimate reality, consciousness, it has no dimensions at all. Because consciousness is fundamental, you cannot define it. It's dimensionless. You cannot find it. You can only point to what is within it, to what it is not." Rupert Spira writes, "There is no way of thinking that can encapsulate consciousness. Thinking about consciousness, the mind comes to an end." Infinite non-local consciousness appears to localize itself as each of our finite minds. As localized, conscious agents to view itself through. This new paradigm posits that while everything is fundamentally consciousness, the appearance of the material world is how consciousness looks to another localized point of consciousness, an outside observer. The physical world, from trees to flowers to galaxies, is how consciousness appears to the outside perceiver. The finite brain. Just as our brain appears to the outside perceiver as nothing more than matter. Einstein saw this connection between the physics of creation and spiritual consciousness, God. Toward the end of his life, he was asked, "Did God make the garden?" He replied, "I think he is the garden." The separation of soul and body, mind and matter, divine and earthly, has long been a prevailing paradigm, but it is now being challenged by the findings of quantum physics, which show the deeper reality is holistic and is not made of separable parts. The smallest building blocks of the physical world, quarks, can't exist independently. It's impossible to separate quarks. The gluon field prevents a single quark from being isolated, and quarks are always found in combinations that result in a net charge of zero. Physicist Federico Fagin suggests that quarks, which are fundamental particles of matter, are part of a conscious field, a universal consciousness that creates the physical world. One wants to know itself. That's where life takes form. The reproduction of one. It's so fundamental. The reproduction of one. One knowing itself creates another one. Part whole, though, because it creates many, so it cannot be the totality. So it cannot copy itself. But it creates what it understood itself to be. That's the identity of the field the One has created. Body is part of that field, with identity, intention. When the body dies, we don't die, because we never were in the body. The field doesn't go anywhere. Our body is operated like a drone from a conscious quantum field. Living bodies are made up of trillions of cells, the basic building blocks of all living things. Fagin explains, the cell is an information system. Those cells remain connected to the field because they're made of particles. And quantum physics is telling us that particles are not objects. Particles are states of a field. They cannot be taken away from the field. They are not separable from the field. Like a wave from the sea cannot be taken out of the sea. The particle is not separate from the fields, it's integral to the fields. A particle like an electron doesn't exist separate from the field. It's a state of the field. Electrons may be immortal. They cannot decay under current theories. Particles work together to create structures. Physicist James Glatfelter states, the universe seems to want to build complexity. Galactic structures to cell structures are so intricate, there seems to be a guiding force, something that is being expressed. We forget we're in this matrix of life and matrix of consciousness. This is all a connected thing. Consciousness is the field itself manifesting in the physical. Your brain channels consciousness. It doesn't produce it. The cosmos appears to be assembling very complex contraptions like our brain, which are then able to channel the base consciousness into individualized forms. Rupert Spira states, the consciousness with which each conscious agent is aware of its experience is the same consciousness. What is experiencing consciousness in each of us, all animals, is consciousness, the same consciousness. Outside perception and experience of the world may differ, but the consciousness experiencing it is the same in the cat and human. It's not the person or the cat who has the experience of consciousness. It's consciousness alone that has the experience of itself, and that experience is always the same, in whatever mind the formulation of it may appear. Consciousness knows and experiences itself through many different forms. Ancient cultures and the earliest religions recognize this divine consciousness as the super soul present in all beings. Ancient texts from India described animals as vessels of divine consciousness, gods in form. The super soul, said the Bhagavad Gita, resides in the hearts of all creatures. The Upanishads echoed, this is the God, the mighty soul, seated in the hearts of all creatures. One who sees the super soul in every living being and equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. The goal of human spiritual practice and religion was to reconnect with this consciousness. Beyond form and thought, beyond the thinking mind, where this transpersonal consciousness reunites with itself as pure consciousness. This consciousness recognizes itself in other beings. Other species are often drawn to humans entering this state of consciousness. Through spiritual practice such as meditation, yoga, and sound, consciousness, the ultimate source of everything that eludes naming, measurement, and discovery, was overlooked with the emergence of a mechanistic and materialistic perspective of the universe. Generations have been shaped by Cartesian thought, which emphasizes the material over the conscious. This perspective reduces conscious beings to mere physical entities, focusing solely on their material existence. Thinking separates things into their material parts. From a young age, we learn to see matter over consciousness and leave the world of being to live in a world of thoughts. The illusion of separation begins as we learn to live in the intellect. Thinking about reality removes us from reality. Scientists will never know reality through mind because mind imposes its own limitations on reality and how it is interpreted. While the brain acts as a channel for consciousness, far more information is filtered out than channeled. Our senses gather millions of bits of data per second, but the brain's reticular activating system only allows a small fraction to reach consciousness. The reticular activating system filters out 95 to 99% of sensory information. The brain acts as a filter. The world around us is not the world we perceive because the thalamus filters out what it considers to be irrelevant information. We don't necessarily perceive all there is because that would be an overload of information. The brain's filters shape our sense of separation. The posterior cingulate cortex, for example, is thought to play a role in shaping one's sense of self, so overloading it might drive feelings of self-disintegration. Different chemicals change the way the brain filters consciousness. Dimethyltryptamine, known as DMT, is known to increase connectivity across the brain, causing different regions and systems to communicate with each other in ways they never do under normal circumstances. This phenomenon, termed network disintegration and global functional connectivity, might just be the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of consciousness. For thousands of years, humans have consumed DMT to alter their consciousness. When DMT floods the brain, our perception changes dramatically. The once physical world often becomes a two-dimensional version of reality, and time and space themselves are stripped away. DMT is the chemical believed to trigger near-death experiences and mystical visions. It's thought that DMT is released when we die, perhaps explaining those profound experiences of leaving our bodies and encountering the light. Research has shown that when rats undergo cardiac arrest, the concentration of DMT in their brains increases. Does this mean these lab rats experienced a near-death experience? Could DMT be the bridge between life and death? Between the finite mind and universal consciousness? Between the body and the immortal soul? Descartes believed that humans were unique, that we alone possessed a soul, and that soul resided in the pineal gland. But today we know that almost every animal on Earth also has a pineal gland. And as in humans, the pineal glands in these animals also produce DMT. Humans aren't the only ones who seek out DMT to expand their consciousness. Animals like jaguars intentionally seek out DMT-containing plants in the wild, entering altered states that can last for hours. This behavior may very well be the origin of humanity's discovery of DMT, which was later used by ancient cultures in psychedelic brews like ayahuasca. Many species intentionally seek out similar substances that change their brain chemistry and alter their consciousness. Gorillas and other mammals dig up iboga roots and are aware of which part of the plant contains the active chemical. When a male mandrill is preparing to fight for mating rights or to move up the troop hierarchy, he will first dig up and consume the root of the iboga shrub. Psilocybin found in mushrooms disrupts normal brain association networks, resulting in powerful changes in the perception of time and space and the brain's ability to think about the self in relation to the world. Psilocybin temporarily disrupts a brain network involved in creating a person's sense of self, causing a feeling of oneness with everything around them. Goats, deer, and moose seek out this substance. Sheep will travel out of their way to find lichen, a hallucinogenic mix of algae and fungus that only exists in extreme environments and contains some of the strongest hallucinogens known to man, including both psilocybin and a variant of DMT. These powerful substances are sought out by many species that will go to extreme lengths to find them. When caribou and reindeer eat mushrooms, the psychoactive ingredients intensify in their urine. This hallucinogenic urine is then drunk by other reindeer, by indigenous tribes and shamans, and even by squirrels and chipmunks. What if the desire for a heightened state of consciousness is not just human, but universal? What if every living being on this planet is connected to this higher consciousness, this web of life? And the consciousness and intelligence on Earth is the same consciousness and intelligence, diversifying into different forms, to know different aspects of itself. These truths are being recalled as ancient wisdom merges with modern physics. Einstein wrote, "A human being experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. There is only one dreamer, the one self, dreaming many dreams. In every body there is a dream, but the dreamer is the same. We are here to awaken from our illusion of separateness,